We had to park a block away from the Anne Frank house, and then while Leadvi stood in line to get tickets for us, I sat with my back against a little tree, looking at all the moored houseboats in the prison canal. Augustus was standing above me, rolling my oxygen cart in lazy circles, just watching the wheels spin. I wanted him to sit next to me, but I knew it was hard for him to sit, and harder still to stand back up.
Okay?
I shrugged and reached a hand for his calf. It was his fake calf, but I held on to it. He looked down at me. I wanted, I said.
I know. Apparently the world is not a wish-granting factory.
That made me smile a little. Leadvi returned with the tickets, but her thin lips were pursed with worry. There is no elevator, she said. I am very, very sorry. It's okay, I said. No. There are many stairs, she said. Steep stairs. It's okay, I said again. Augustus started to say something, but I interrupted. It's okay. I can do it. We began in a room with a video about Jews in Holland and the Nazi invasion and the Frank family. Then we walked upstairs into the canal house where Otto Frank's business had been. The stairs were slow for me and Augustus both, but I felt strong. Soon I was staring at the famous bookcase that had hid Anne Frank, her family, and 4 others. The bookcase was half open, and behind it was an even steeper set of stairs, only wide enough for one person. There were fellow visitors all around us, and I didn't want to hold up the procession, but Leadvi said, "If everyone could be patient, please." And I began the walk up, Leadvi carrying the cart behind me, Gus behind her. It was 14 steps. I kept thinking about the people behind me. They were mostly adults speaking a variety of languages, and feeling embarrassed or whatever, feeling like a ghost that both comforts and haunts. But finally, I made it up, and then I was in an eerily empty room, leaning against the wall, my brain telling my lungs, it's okay, calm down, it's okay, and my lungs telling my brain, oh God, we're dying here. I didn't even see Augustus come upstairs, but he came over and wiped his brow at the back of his hand like, phew. After a few minutes of wall leaning, I made it to the next room, which Anne had shared with the dentist Fritz Pfeffer. It was tiny, empty of all furniture. You'd never know anyone had lived there, except that the pictures Anne had pasted onto the wall from magazines and newspapers were still there. Another staircase led up to the room where the Van Pels family had lived. This one steeper than the last, and 18 steps, essentially a glorified ladder. I got to the threshold and looked up, and figured I could not do it, but also knew the only way through was up.
Let's go back.
I'm okay. It's stupid, but I kept thinking I owed it to her, to Anne Frank I mean, because she was dead and I wasn't, because she had stayed quiet and kept the blinds drawn and done everything right and still died, and so I should go up the steps and see the rest of the world she'd lived in those years before the Gestapo came. I began to climb the stairs, crawling up them like a little kid would, slow at first, so I could breathe, but then faster, because I knew I couldn't breathe, and I wanted to get to the top before everything gave out. The blackness encroached around my field of vision as I pulled myself up, 18 steps, steep as hell. But I finally crested the staircase, mostly blind and nauseated, the muscles in my arms and legs screaming for oxygen. I slumped seated against a wall, heaving watered-down coughs. There was an empty glass case bolted to the wall above me, and I stared up through it to the ceiling and tried not to pass out. Leadvi crouched down next to me, saying, "You're at the top. That is it." And I nodded. I had a vague awareness of the adults all around glancing down at me worriedly, of Leadvi speaking quietly in one language, and then another to various visitors, of Augustus standing above me, his hand on the top of my head, stroking my hair along the part. After a long time, Leadvi and Augustus pulled me to my feet, and I saw what was protected by the glass case. Pencil marks on the wallpaper measuring the growth of all the children in the annex during the period they lived there, inch after inch, until they would grow no more. From there, we left the Franks' living area, but we're still in the museum. A long, narrow hallway showed pictures of each of the annex's 8 residents and described how and where and when they died. The only member of his whole family who survived the war, Levi told us, referring to Anne's father, Otto.
But he didn't survive a war, not really. He survived a genocide.
True, Levi said. I do not know how you go on without your family. I do not know. As I read about each of the 7 who died, I thought of Otto Frank not being a father anymore, left with a diary instead of a wife and 2 daughters. At the end of the hallway, a huge book, bigger than a dictionary, contained the names of the 103,000 dead from the Netherlands in the Holocaust. Only 5,000 of the deported Dutch Jews, a wall label explained, had survived. 5,000 Otto Franks. The book was turned to the page with Anne Frank's name, but what got me about it was the fact that right beneath her name, there were 4 Aaron Franks. 4. 4 Aaron Franks without museums, without historical markers, without anyone to mourn them. I silently resolved to remember and pray for the 4 Aaron Franks as long as I was around. Maybe some people need to believe in a proper and omnipotent God to pray, but I don't. As we got to the end of the room, Gus stopped and said,
You okay?
I nodded. He gestured back toward Anne's pictures.
The worst part is that she almost lived, you know? She died weeks away from liberation.
Levi took a few steps away to watch a video, and I grabbed Augustus's hand as we walked into the next room. It was an A-frame room with some letters Otto Frank had written to people during the months-long search for his daughters. On the wall in the middle of the room, a video of Otto Frank played. He was speaking in English.
Are there any Nazis left that I could hunt down and bring to justice?
We leaned over the vitrines, reading Otto's letters, and the gutting replies that no one had seen his children after the liberation. I think they're all dead, but it's not like the Nazis had a monopoly on evil.
True. That's what we should do, Hazel Grace. We should team up and be this disabled vigilante duo, roaring through the world, righting wrongs, defending the weak, protecting the endangered.
Although it was his dream and not mine, I indulged it. He'd indulged mine after all. Our fearlessness shall be our secret weapon.
The tales of our exploits will survive as long as the human voice itself.
And even after that, when the robots recall the human absurdities of sacrifice and compassion, they will remember us.
They will robot laugh at our courageous folly. But something in their iron robot hearts will yearn to have lived and died as we did on the hero's errand.
Augustus Waters, I said, looking up at him, thinking that you cannot kiss anyone in the Anne Frank house. And then thinking that Anne Frank, after all, kissed someone in the Anne Frank house, and that she would probably like nothing more than for her home to have become a place where the young and irreparably broken sink into love.
And I must say, I was very much surprised about deep thoughts on the head.
And then we were kissing. My hand let go of the oxygen cart, and I reached up for his neck, and he pulled me up by my waist onto my tiptoes. As his parted lips met mine, I started to feel breathless in a new and fascinating way. The space around us evaporated, and for a weird moment, I really liked my body. This cancer-ruined thing I'd spent years dragging around suddenly seemed worth the struggle, worth the chest tubes and the PICC lines and the ceaseless bodily betrayal of the tumors.
It was quite a different Anna I had known as my daughter. She never really showed this kind of inner feeling.
The kiss lasted forever as Otto Frank kept talking from behind me.
Saved by 2. My conclusion is, as I had been in very, very good terms with Anna, that most parents don't know really their children.
I realized that my eyes were closed and opened them. Augustus was staring at me, his blue eyes closer to me than they'd ever been, and behind him, a crowd of people, 3 deep, had sort of circled around us. They were angry, I thought, horrified. These teenagers with their hormones making out beneath a video broadcasting the shattered voice of a former father. I pulled away from Augustus, and he snuck a peck onto my forehead as I stared down at my Chuck Taylors. And then they started clapping. All the people, all these adults just started clapping, and one shouted "Bravo" in a European accent. Augustus, smiling, bowed. Laughing, I curtsied ever so slightly, which was met with another round of applause. We made our way downstairs, letting all the adults go down first, and right before we got to the cafe, where blessedly an elevator took us back to the ground level and the gift shop, we saw pages of Anne's diary, and also her unpublished book of quotations. The book happened to be turned to a page of Shakespeare quotations. "For who so firm that cannot be seduced," she'd written.